Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 RBC Heritage. This is my DFS top pick shows and also focus on a one and done for you guys. I'm going to go through all the players in the field from the top all the way down to 7,000, do all the analysis. Of course, if you want to skip through and go right to my picks, just fast forward through this. But I hope you stick around. If you like to get into the details and like to see why I'm picking who I am, then you can watch all the information that I'm going to show you. All right, with that said, let's talk some golf. Okay, so if you missed yesterday's show, real quickly, I just want you to know where I'm leaning from a stroke gain analysis. What is the skill set that I'm looking for a player to do well here at Harbortown Golf Leagues? And ultimately, how do they win? And who's the best guys out there that are going to fit this? And the number one thing, right, it's a very tight course. It's very strategic. It's a thinking man course. It's all about hitting your tee shot off the tee to an area that you can, access the pin, these very small greens, the best way possible. So with that said, I am heavily weighting good drives and approach. I'm also throwing a little ball striking. If you remember last year with Stuart Sink, just blitzkrieged the field with a 63 and a 63 back-to-back. That he hit a lot of long irons, a lot of hybrids and woods, and put him within incredible close proximity to the pin. So there is some ball striking here, of course. With the very small screens on tour, you are going to be missing these greens. So you're going to need to get up and down, so around the green in short game. Scrambling because there's a lot of woods, tight fairways. You're going to have to be able to get out of some tight areas. And then, of course, putting would be last because typically if you're on these greens, you're probably going to have a pretty short putt, and they're not crazy undulating, so it's not that putting is definitely not crucial, but it's also very hard to find out who is going to have that great putting week, but we are putting in the model. And then the two proximities to the pin, if you want to understand what that is, the approach shot coming into the green, the two that show up the most is 175 to 200, so back to that ball striking. That comes in at 25% of the shots coming in, and then the next would be 150 to 175, that's at 23%. You've only got 3 par 5s here. The first 2 used to be really short, but they've added some length. But you can still definitely eagle the first par 5, which I believe is hole number 4. I might be incorrect. Maybe it's hole 2 and 4. It doesn't matter. The first 2 you can definitely, are birdie. They're all birdie opportunities. So you gotta strike on those. You got to manage these par 4s. There's 11 of them, and 5 of them fall between 400 and 450. So that is in the model. And of course, we need guys that can score. It was a little unique after coming out of COVID, of course, when Webb Simpson a couple years back shot, I believe it was 22 under. But it will get up in the upper teens. Ultimately, is who's going to be the winner. So we're going to need guys that can make putts, birdies, and eagles. All right, and then again, I always do my comparable courses, and I think on this course, a lot like Augusta, course experience is going to be a factor. Maybe not as much as Augusta, but it is one of the courses that it definitely shows up that guys that have done well at Harbortown or these comparable courses specifically listed on the left, like Colonial or Seaside. For the RSM, you've got La Quinta and PGA West. And then one that I did add was Sony Open. The more I kind of thought about it, we do have stroke gain data for it. I always kind of get it mixed up. When you get over in the island courses, sometimes we don't have stroke gain data. But Wailea is a very similar kind of, tree, short, plays a lot like Harbortown, so I've added that in. And then I've kept TPC, Sawgrass, PGA National, and John Deere, which would be TPC Deere Run. So with that said, I did give you guys yesterday also, here's a list of guys that have done very well over the last 6 tournaments at those courses. And then if you want to know specifically on just these courses to the left, that gives you another list of names. And of course, Abraham Answer has withdrawn. And he also withdrew from the Valero. So something's going on there. I don't know what, but it must be pretty significant. Okay, with that said, let's go jump over to Fantasy National. Let's dive into the analysis. And then I'll give you guys my top 15 plays. Okay, so I've jumped over into Fantasy National, and I'm going to be leveraging, you'll see here, Draftkings pricing. But again, feel free to use these picks on Yahoo, FanDuel, whatever you are playing for fantasy golf. And we're going to be looking at the last 12 rounds of golf. So I want to look at recent form. That's what you're going to be seeing here. I want you to know that I've done quite a bit of analysis with this smaller model. Before this, I did 24 rounds, and I used a lot of those comparable courses to kind of whittle down the field. And then the last thing I'm showing you is recent form. And what you're seeing here is kind of the top 5 stroking categories that I want to focus on to make my final selections. And with that said, of course, I mentioned good drives, weighted about 30%, approach about the same, around the green, scrambling, and then putting. I also had in here before that 175 to 200. That also helped me whittle the field down. But this was the final kind of, last test. And then, of course, as always, I'm looking at birdies gained over the last 12 rounds. Of course, you want to see green and hopefully spiking up. And then, of course, we always get to see recent results, the last 5 tournaments they played, and then their tournament history here at Harbour Town. We started out the bat with Justin Thomas. Of course, didn't have the greatest Masters that I think he would have liked. Still ended up with a T8, but, kind of an up and down. And he's the most expensive, and you guys kind of know, typically I don't pick the most expensive guy. There's kind of some thoughts on this. I mean, do I think Justin Thomas, really wants to go win the RBC Heritage? Probably not. I'm actually shocked that a lot of these guys, I've already stated this, are playing. Now, it's like a 130-mile trip. If some of these guys are playing because they're on the team RBC, I'll talk about those guys when I come across them. But, it was just kind of interesting, right? I mean, after the COVID break, right, this was the second tournament. And so it made sense that we had a very strong field. But this is a great field, and I'm not complaining about it by any stretch. I'm just a little interested that, that I'm waiting for some of these guys to start pulling out. I guess, like, we already had Abraham Answer, but we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe all these guys will stay in. But with that said, the first guy you land on is Justin Thomas, and everything's, from this looks great. But when I did a lot more analysis on Justin, also I'm still worried about the driver. Everything else, I mean, it's really off the tee for me. Now you can see, he's ranked 31st out of a field of, I believe, 130 some players. I remember the number. The irons, it's in the putter. The putter's been a little suspicious back and forth. I'm not going to be overweight on him in the field. Cam Smith, of course, you guys know, one of my favorite. I've got like my top 5 favorite players on the PGA Tour. He is one of them. Again, man, I mean, to come off what just transpired at the Masters, the guy's playing amazing golf. But you can kind of see, I think this is kind of telling, right? He wins the Century, big fairways, right? I mean, wide open. And then he goes to the Sony Open. Now, I think he was a bit burned out from the Century Tournament of Champions. But also, I don't really feel like this course is a perfect fit for Cam. And you can see a little bit of this from his tournament history, right? I mean, 2 missed cuts. He had a T9, though, last year. I'm just worried about the driver. I'm worried about how tired he is. I'm worried about where his mind's at. I'm shocked he's playing in this. I mean, financially, there was no reason, but it was, again, a quick trip over to, right above Tybee Island where they're playing. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and fade pretty much the whole 10,000 range. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Colin Morikawa was the guy that if I was going to pick anyone out of this group of 5, it was Colin Morikawa. But ultimately, as I started to kind of figure out, and again, I don't just pick all the top players. I want to make sure that you guys can use these in a full build. It just didn't work that way. And also, I think a lot of people are going to be skewed to what they saw. I mean, I think his game was off a bit. Of course, at the Players in the Valspar, he looked a lot better, especially on Sunday, which a lot of people got to watch. You can see over his last 3 tournaments, though, if you look at what he's been doing, it has been that great. But if I was going to pick one guy, right, the irons, Colin Morikawa, if he's on, he should do very well. Now you can see kind of a mixed bag, a T64 and then a T7 last year. Ultimately, like I said, I'm going to fade to 10, the 11, 10,000 range. Patrick Cantlay, again, he's just been off. I mentioned about the putter and getting bent back when he was in Hawaii. Now, again, not like these guys can't flick a switch. And will I maybe here or there sprinkle? I mean, also DJ, he's here because he is the lead team RBC guy. So he's got to play in this. And of course, he's had some mixed bag of results. I think I showed you that graphic. His first 3 starts here were not good. His last couple have been very good. He had a chance to win this thing. He just fell apart on Sunday. But again, I mean, there's so many guys that I want to play below. And I think from a build perspective, I feel better about it. So where I'm going to land, the first guy I'm landing on, and it's not because he came up number 1 model rank, but He also was in that same CT pan, and I think he ended up sort of been third. So 2019, I take that back. We ended up actually T28. Wow. Okay. Anyways, I like Shane Lowry. That's the first guy that I'm going to start my builds with, for so many reasons. I mean, you can see recent form is amazing. He's done, good course history here, a T9, a T3, a T44. He also had a miscut, which this is kind of a bit like a TPC Sawgrass. This is a course that is not forgiving, and if you are not on 100%, especially off the tee, you're done. You're going to miss the cut. Any of these guys. So you better have your sense of bite. Now, of course, you can also down club, right? You can go and hit the 3-wood, the 2-wood, the hybrid, your 3-iron, whatever it is that you are comfortable hitting the fairway at 240, 250, and you're going to get around here okay, not a problem. That's also part, I didn't mention this, why I'm kind of fading the top guys. And specifically like a DJ, JT, Cam, I mean, they all have length, which on courses that you can use that length comes in handy. But once you take that you can't be hitting driver off the tee on every hole, that length that you had as an advantage is gone. And now the guys that do some other things very well, like around the green, crazy irons, chipping, putting, those are the guys that now are just as equal to you because you just lost maybe one of your key assets. So that's also part of it. All right, let's go click on Shane Lowry. Sorry, I've been moving a little slow through this, but we're going to get going. All right, so the guys also I want 60% driving accuracy is pretty much a must. I'm not worried about distance. Great, you hit it 300 yards. Don't forget, I mentioned this, and I'm not saying that these are true POA greens. They are Bermuda greens with like a POA overseed, but it could have effect. And so they did this, I believe, even last year here. And the reason why is they were expecting a harsh winter and they didn't want to kill the Bermuda. So just kind of a side note. We look at where Mr. Lowry's had some of his best outings. Of course, RBC is right up there. The Honda, where he could have won this year, I think is a great fit. WGC St. Jude's a good fit. Players, RBC again. So quite a few of the courses that I want to see these guys that do well at. Corey Connors, probably more like a perfect fit except for the putting, but of course, smaller greens, not that tricky. I think is also a great fit. You can see, in his early days, a lot of missed cuts. He's also team RBC from a Canadian side, but he had a T4 last year, or T21 before that. Doing everything well. The putter is, typically, as we know, is where the issue could be. All right, of course, he has a win at Valero. Kind of tight course, but a little lengthier. Bermuda, Sanderson form's tight. Lengthier, 7,400 yards. Arnold Palmer, the recent. But here's that Sony popping up here. Here's RBC, the Players, Charles Schwab, RSM, the Sony. I mean, it just keeps going over and over and over. So that's a lot. There's a lot of these guys in the 9s that I want to play and going to be the main build for me. All right. I told you Daniel Berger, first guy that I put in one and done and also bet on like instantly. I think I got him like 30-1 if I remember correctly. Of course, he's been playing pretty decent golf. Not the greatest show at the Masters, but he doesn't have that great of a record there, even though I picked him hoping that might have been a little bit of a change, but I had to rethink that. Of course, he's had pretty good course history here, a T3, a T13. And if we go look at where Daniel Berger, and of course, he was on my screensaver there, and you might have saw him in that plaid jacket. Of course, that was for the Charles Schwab, the first tournament I believe they played coming out of COVID. I just thought it's kind of funny because there's this stretch where everybody, you win a jacket, right? That we're going to go through here very shortly. So, of course, AT&T Pro-Am, Pebble Beach, small greens, maybe not as tight, but also a shorter course, small green. So you could use it as a comp. I don't do it, but you could use it as a comparable. There's the Charles Schwab, of course, 2 St. Jude's, 3 St. Jude's, if you want to call the runner-up. The Travelers, not a terrible. That is, I believe, POA. Let me go see this real quick. Nope, bent. My apologies. But it's ridiculous. I mean, if you know Daniel Berger, when you think of short, small, par 70, 71, Bermuda, that's right in his wheel. You can see Honda comes up a couple times. It's one of, it was, like I said, it was a no-brainer for me. He's going to probably be super chalky. Right now, he's at 17%. We'll see. But I really like Daniel Berger here. Then the next guy up, Fitzpatrick, again, solid course history here. fits him, right? I mean, he's accurate, good with the irons, great putter, great scrambling, everything you want, perfect fit. And if we look at, of course, he's not had a win. Also gains quite a bit on, here's driving accuracy, distance, and then his splits gains the most on Bermuda. If I look at where he's at his best, so Arnold Palmer, Memorial, but then RBC, St. Jude. Valspar was in my comp courses yesterday. I moved that out, but I think it's still a good comparable. Pebble Beach to St. Jude. Yeah, you kind of just go on. There's a lot of the comparable courses that match up. He does everything I want, so I'm in with him. Sungjae Im actually was on my mind to be in this list, and the more I kind of started to look at it and think about it, I'm going to pass. Now, he had a good Masters, and maybe that's the turning point, but he struggled quite a bit this year comparative to where I'm used to seeing Sungjae Im. You can see that represented in the model. You know, if we look at where he's done, you know, he's had some good comparable courses. Let's see here. So Shriners win, Honda, you know, good comparable. You can make a stretch for the Sanderson Farms. There's Valspar. But you know, when I kind of pull up his RBC, let me go look at that. You know, a T13 and a miscut and a miscut. I don't know. The more I just kind of thought about it, I think I'm going to take a pass on Sungjae Im. I mean, I can't play all the guys in the nines. I'm playing none up top. So I'm going to go with those guys. Skip him. Spieth, no. I mean, there's not even a consideration for me on so many fronts. So, you know, you can differentiate yourself right now. His ownership's going to looks like it's going to be low. But I think a lot of, you know, unless some amazing thing happens, I'm terrified of his driver. His putter's blown. His iron's about his only thing that's his saving grace, but you're going to need more than that than here. The one guy that I'm actually going to land on that I was not expecting to make a pick was Joaquin Niemann. He's also the reason why Morikawa got bounced out. Now, when you think of Joaquin Niemann, you think of, you know, kind of a longer track ball striker. But funny enough, if you look at where he got his first win was when we had the Greenbrier at Old White TPC, or TPC Old White. That is a really good comparable course. It's almost identical in a lot of attributes, a lot like Colonial. He also, you know, in 2020 had a T5 here. But if we go look at Joaquin Niemann, not too far from a Coke Rack where you just think of bomber courses should fit him. He's actually done pretty decent on the shorter tracks. So I mentioned his win at Greenbrier. If I click on that, I mentioned Old White. It's a par 70, less than 7,200 yards. You know, there's a lot of similarities if you've ever seen that course, quite a bit of trees. And it's an old school course, hence the name. A lot like RBC. Rocket Mortgage, that's a kind of a back and forth straight trees. I mean, you can get in and out of that, but a little more distance, bent greens. But there's a Sony had a second. RBC, the fifth I already mentioned. Travelers, Greenbrier again. The Valspar, there's a Charles Schwab at Colonial. So I started to look into it, and the more I like, you know, I internally sold myself. Of course, Joaquin Niemann, you know, had of course, won at Riviera. He's been playing really good golf. So he's the one, honestly, that kind of went outside of where I was thinking. But I'm going with him. And hence, again, like I said, I've got quite a few guys in the nines, since why I passed all the uppers. Russ Henley, again, I've been waiting for this guy to get his win this year. And if you remember, right, he should have won the Sony at Wailea. You know, pretty decent course history here at T9, a couple miscuts, but this should fit him perfect. He's been playing really good golf, solid golf. Had a good, you know, Sunday at the Masters. I wish he would have done a little better in the first few rounds, but neither here or there. A lot like a Daniel Berger, this is where he should strike. You can see he drives the ball, 67% accuracy over the last 12. You know, gains on Bermuda typically. The putter's been, you know, getting back into form. And if we look where he's won the Shell, let's play with that. That was the Houston, right? Yeah. The old Shell Houston Open. I was just curious. Of course, the Honda, good comp, but that's a while ago. The Sony, of course, that's a while ago. Then the Sony again here recently. There's my John Deere. So, of course, you know, you had Lucas Glover, who I picked last year, win there. If you watch that tournament, that course is also a very good comparable course, different green, maybe a little more up and down undulation. I feel like this is a little flatter here at Harbortown. The Honda, again, there's the RSM, there's Greenbrier, Travelers, RSM, RBC. I mean, I could go through this all day. The shorter, Bermuda, tracks. I mean, you're just going to see him keep popping up over and over and over. This is his jam. So he didn't win the Sony. Of course, I've already got bets on him and all that good stuff. I think even from a one and done perspective, if you've not used him, I used him at the Sony. He'd be a great fit. So I'll put that ahead, even though I'm going to talk one and done a little bit. Webb Simpson, I already told you guys, even though great, probably the best stroke gain total course history here at RBC. That was Webb Simpson 2 years ago. I still think maybe it's the injury that he's still fighting through. His game is not where it needs to be. Now, look at this. Over his last 3 tournaments played, and this is pulling Masters data in, but of course, they don't get a lot of stroke gain data from the Masters. He's not hitting fairways, and it has no distance. So and then you can see everything else is, kind of mid to, and the one thing that was his, key strength was his putting for quite a while. So everything's kind of falling apart now. Projection on that's what I love to see. I hope everybody plays him, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but I don't think he will do better than a top 20, and could miss the cut. It's all depending on what goes on off the tee box. So we'll see. That's the one stance that I'm taking. I am fading Webb Simpson. Billy Ho, a lot like a Daniel Berger. This should fit right in his wheelhouse. Hits that little fade, good putter. He was been ball striking amazingly. You can see he had a T5 here before, T25 last year. Let's go take a little more look at the Billy Ho. Drives it almost 66%. That 295. Gains on Bermuda. You see the putter's been great over the last 10 tournaments. Irons is what, has been firing again. Now, I don't know what took place at I don't even care about the Masters. For my brain, I'm just wiping it for a lot of these guys. Now, I care about the guys that made it in contention, like a Cam Smith, but for everybody else, I'm not too concerned. But anyways, we look at where he's had success. There's a Byron Nelson. So I'm guessing that one, yeah, par 70, less than 7,200 yards. It is bent greens, but that was at TPC 4 Seasons. I hate when that happens. Just a second. So the Byron Nelson, short track, par 70. Let's see here. You got the Wyndham would fit kind of in the wheel, the RSM, St. Jude, Honda, RBC, the Wyndham, St. Jude, the Wyndham, Sony. I mean, everything tells me thumbs up for Billy Ho, but we'll see how that all works out. Terrell Hatton, he's been a mess. No, thank you. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you've been watching golf, you don't want to play Terrell Hatton. HV3, another Team RBC guy. Best finish on the PGA Tour, not including international wins. He's had 2, right? Australia and then the Dubai Classic, whatever he just recently won. He had this little T2 at RBC, which you can see does not make sense because he typically is wayward with the driver. But he had an Enfuego day with the putter, which he has done a little bit of. So let's go take a look at that. He gained almost 6 strokes. We'll call it 5.5, 6 strokes with the putter. His best putting outing ever was 7. So that showed you that was his 3rd best putting outing he's ever had in his life. Well, we'll call it his, Travelers is right there too. He has some good comparables. It's going to be what happens with that tee ball for him again, and the putter. It's kind of a double. I mean, you can see over his career, not usually a good putter. And off the tee, it can go, you can see if it's wayward, he's missing cuts. And if he keeps it above or neutral, he can make a cut. But then here he missed quite a bit with the putter again. So at that price tag out of this field, I think that's pretty hefty for HV3. I think it's a little bit of recent form, which, not great, but that players, I'm sure a lot of people, he had a pretty good showing at the Masters. Had that, whatever, you think what he shot, 71, then had that 80 on the really cold, blustery day. Siwoo Kim, I thought for sure I'd play, right? P-Dye specialist. Good bet. I bet him. I think he's good to bet. But that's about it. He's not going to make the top. Now, I might sprinkle him in a few lineups. You can see quite a mixed bag, a T33, a second, a couple miscuts, 1. But if you look at his comparables, they're ridiculous. His driving accuracy is not bad. Pretty good ball striker. It's all about what happens with the putter. And you can see like the Amex, great comparable. The players, there's Pete Dye's right here. You got the Wyndhams, RBC Heritage. Nothing you can say. So I'd rather bet him and sprinkle him from a DFS perspective. I ended up going with Alex Noren instead. Just, his recent form has been amazing. He also has a good track record here, all in the 20s, so this course suits him. And then if you also look at Alex Noren's also comparable, so driving accuracy, maybe not as strong, but still over 60%. Typically gains on Bermuda. And then we click on this. There's that Honda, the 3M Open. If you remember, I had that on my comparables. Ton of water. Yes, it's bent greens, but not too far off from a par and a distance. And 17 holes come into play in the water. Like this has 18 holes. Got the Honda again. The RSM shows up. There's the Valspar, WGC St. Jude. So again, a lot of good comparables. I like Alex Noren. He is going to make my top 15. Fleetwood, there, you can make a case either way. At this time, just too many guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys you could play and make a case for. And again, maybe I'll sprinkle Fleetwood in here or there, but I'm going to pass for right now from the top 15. Same with Kisner, right? Under the Kevin Na rule, there's certain tournaments they can win. This is one of them. Curious to see how chalky he's going to be. You see he's had a mixed bag here. The irons, I think he had a little better showing at the Masters, but I don't have the data on it. But you can see typically the irons is where he struggles, and even off the tee. Now, that's including distance, so I'm not worried about that. The Players is one of his better showings he's had. So with that all said, I'm going to pass, and I'm going to go with Chris Kirk. I think, maybe some people might get off him a little bit. Like he's had the typical Chris Kirk, either he's doing great or he's missing cut. Again, a good betting. But I mean, the Honda, the Arnold Palmer, he had great showings. Missed a cut of the Players. I don't know what his tee time was. I don't remember if he was a PM, AM, but that has some effect. Driving accuracy up there, mid-60s. Pretty good putter overall. You can see over his last 10 rounds, he's been gaining. He's been gaining across the field over his last 10 events. So I like that. And then, of course, we go click on where has he done well. Not worried about that. But Charles Schwab, where he's got a win. It's a while ago. RSM, a while ago. The Sony, though, was recent. So that's good to see. I mean, it was a year ago, but it was still recent. There's the Sony again. RSM a couple times. Sanderson Farms, you got to be very accurate. It's a very tight course, but even harder and longer. The Sony, the Schwab, the Jude. You just go through his list of successes, and it just screams that he should do very well here. So he's going to make my top. Matt McNeely, I don't know. I don't have an issue with him. There's too many guys that I want to play. So I'm going to be out on Mav. You can see from a modeling perspective, he's not really meeting it. And then he had a good showing here last year, but you see a kind of a mix. And I got to get over the hump of just wanting to play Mav McNeely on POA on the West Coast. Because, I'm not saying his game can't translate, but, Fortinet, that's also where Stuart Sink won. So good comparable, but, it is on the West Coast. And it is, I believe, POA. Okay, bent, whatever. AT&T, right? That's where he got everybody's radar, the RBC. So he fits that mold of what you kind of want from a comparable course side. So I might sprinkle him, but he's not making the top 15. Jason Kokrak, he was just a mess. As far as I'm concerned, he was terrible for the last, and then had out of nowhere, a good showing at Augusta. So I'm a little thrown off. I mean, you could see off the tee, he was just all over the place. You could see his finishes. He went from winning at Houston Open, kind of out of nowhere. I mean, a little bit out of nowhere, right? He had a good FedEx Cup, miscut, a 54th, and then boom, a win. That also is part of it, gaining almost 9 strokes with a putter. And then, not bad. He had a 17th at the Sony Open. What I've learned, if we looked at where he's done well, again, the Schwab he won recently, great fit. I think he even has a good showing at RBC. That's a while ago. He's got some small course, Greenbrier, Fortinet, also used to be the Safeway. He's got some, funny enough, I've stated this a lot. I think of Kokrak because how big he is, and he can drive it out there that he's a bomb and gouge, but he plays small course as well. So he'll be a sprinkle, but not making the top 15. Kuchar, this was a tough one. And even not. I'll be dead honest with you. I don't like playing either of these guys, but this is one of the courses that I will play them. You can see, ridiculous tournament history. I think he's maybe just under Webb Simpson. We'll look at that. But this, it's a lot what I saw at Valero. Now, a lot of guys dropped out of that field. It was a weaker field, but it looked like Kuchar kind of found. He also gained quite a bit with a putter there, so we'll take a look at that. But this is his jam, man. I mean, if he's going to contend, this is the course. I mean, Valero, to be honest, really, I wouldn't have pegged him, but you can see gain 7.5 strokes. Right, he's losing off the tee, right, because of distance, but he made it all up with the putter. But if I had, go through the comps, I mean, you don't even have to. Sony, RBC wins, the Players a win, RBC, Amex. I mean, it's ridiculous. Charles Schwab, like you name it, every comparable course on there, he's probably got to win. So there's no way I could not. If I would have not picked him, and I don't play him in DFS, I've already bet him. I would have just, I would have been doing you and me a disservice. Kevin Na is probably, I would say, out of the two, is harder for me to play. He's so sporadic, but this is his course that he can win a tournament. Now you can see, as I say, sporadic, miscut last year, T10, miscut, a 39th, and a T4. Of course, he just won also the Charles Schwab before Kokrak. So if we click on that, right, he won the Sony last year. Shriners, that's a putt fest, but same. Charles Schwab, Greenbrier, Wyndham, John Deere, you name it. The Genesis, that's a small miracle, but it is what it is. Yeah, this is his jam, and if he's going to do well, also from my understanding, he led the field at the Masters with approach. Now, again, I don't know how much I trust because I don't see ShotLink towers there. Or maybe I missed it. I didn't get ShotLink data, so I don't know how or who is calculating. I know Data Golf has it, but I don't understand how they're calculating it. And so I don't know if I trust it. I'll just tell you straight up. But neither here or there. I'm playing Kevin Na. You can make an argument for Brian Harman. Good course fit. Not terrible recent results. And, so I just, there's too many guys. You could sit there and you could probably make an argument for 90% of these guys to play. Mito, we're looking for that first time winner. Drives the ball, keeps it pretty accurate, and had that little spike with the Bermuda green. So who knows? But not making mine. I mean, Adam Hadwin, actually shocked at his pricing at 7,600. I think it's a steal. I think it's one of the top values that we're getting from a DFS and even a betting. I think he was at like 70 to 1, 66 to 1, something like that. Been playing great golf. I mean, when you see this screams win coming. Or even the teens. Like usually if you see 3 out of the last 5 tournaments, I don't care if it's like a 15th, a 12th, and a 10th, and maybe 2 missed cuts, that screams, here I come, I'm going to win. Finally due to win a tournament. Let's click on Adam Hadwin. Of course, great short game, very accurate, not long, good putter. You can see here the 3 boxes that we really want to see green, and he's still, hitting fairways, so he's not gaining a ton of distance. You can see here, over his last 3, I mean, little off the Players, but made up with the putter. You click on where he's had, of course, Valspar, I mentioned, his win. That's not a bad comparable. Fournette used to be the safe way. Look at the Amex. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, perfect at La Quinta. Yeah, I mean, Charles Schwab, just over and over. I mean, this course, from a comparable course side, it will identify guys that just play these kind of so well. Like it's rare. Tom Hoge could do very well here too. Not gonna make my cut, but been playing decent golf, right? Won at Pebble Beach. He, I think, has led to Tour Star this year at that 150 to 175 or 170. One of the proximities that you need to be good at here, he does. So again, no reason not to sprinkle him. He's not making my top 15. I'm gonna go down to Kevin Streelman. Of course, good course history here, a T6, a T7, a T33, playing good golf. You can see that represented over his last 3 tournaments. He's leading a lot of categories, making birdies. And then I'll go click on his comparables just so you can see it. Drives the ball very accurately, not very long. The putter can be his bugaboo, but you can see out of the last 5 tournaments, he's gained 4 out of the 5. So that's a good sign. Hopefully that stays. The Travelers, not a bad comparable. The Travelers again. There's Pebble Beach. Again, the putting fest at Shriners. I'm trying to think, TPC Summerlin. Yeah, it's a little longer, but it is a par 71. That is a pure putting Festivus. A few more comparables for you. There's RBC, AT&T, Wyndham, John Deere. Yeah, just ticks all my boxes. So I'm on Streelman. Also bet him. Cameron Young, nope. Don't need your length. And, you know, and I don't know how well you would do at this kind of track. So I'm out on him. Poulter's a good fit. I mean, you can see good course history here. I'm just kind of gotta make some calls. And Poulter's, you know, just not my bread and butter right now. Luke List, he's also had some, you know, a crazy enough like a Jason Kokrak, a T3 here. You know, you can get it done different ways here. You can. I wouldn't put Sink as really a plotter. I mean, the guy's hitting it, you know, on average 330 when he wants with the driver. I mean, he's gained some length. So, you know, you can do it both ways, but my facet is I'm going with the guys that I know are going to hit fairways, good with the irons and good with the putter, and see what happens. Troy Merritt, I mentioned in the preview show, holds the course record still, as far as I know. 2015 shot a 61. I don't know which round that was, but could be a good round one, you know, leader. Neither here or there. I had that T4 at Valero not too long ago. Been playing good golf, just kind of increasingly getting better. He had the best was a third back in 2015, a T10. But if you look at Troy Merritt, he's been nipping. Pretty accurate, you know, not long, good putter. But it's just been nipping for that win. So he had the win at Barbasol, lost in a playoff to Cam Davis at the Rocket Mortgage. That's a long time ago, but St. Jude, good fit. RBC, a bit ago. Pebble Beach recently, one of his best finishes, and he had Valero. I mean, the guy's just been showing up there kind of quietly, sneakily. And, of course, the Schwab, the Valspar, AT&T, Travelers, RBC, you know, even Sanderson Farm. I mean, a lot of good comparables. So I bet him already. I think it was 100 to 1. You might have got a better number than that, but I feel like I bet him at 100 to 1. I'm on Troy Merritt. And then, no thank you, Dylan Fratelli. You're wild off the tee. But you can make an argument. Dylan Fratelli, that's what he's done here. Not a bad, where is that? Not, you know, a T8. But he has a win, or maybe his only win, if I remember right, is at the John Deere TPC Deere Ranch. I think it's a good fit. He went nuts with the irons and the putter. Yeah, gained 7.5. Okay. I thought it was way better than that. Maybe he chipped a lot in. I thought it was the irons, at least when I remember watching. But I'm going to pass on him. Funny enough, I didn't think I'd be going with Munoz, but I am going with Munoz. Once again, he had a really good showing at TPC Deere Run, which is the John Deere. Been playing good golf. When I say good, you know, 30s, 20s. He's got a T28 and a miscut here. But when we go look at Mr. Munoz, you know, great ball striker. He reminds me, you know what he reminds me a lot of is Lucas Glover. They're very similar. Really good ball striker. Can work the ball both ways, but typically draw the ball off the tee and can get, you know, I would say, I guess Munoz can get a little hotter than Glover with the putter, but you know, it all happens. You can see, you know, gain 3.5 here and then just loss, and then 2.5. But we look at where he's had success. So Sanderson Farms, funny enough, keeps showing up over and over. And if you know that tournament, CCA Jackson, you know, it's not super long, but I think it plays around 74, 73 high. It's a par 72. It is Bermuda, but it is tight. That's a tight track. So that's a good sign. And then, of course, you start going through the RSM, the Charles Schwab at Colonial, where he gained 10 strokes. Now, I'm not expecting that to happen, but he went in Fuego. The RSM, Greenbrier, John Deere, Greenbrier. It's like Sony, Byron Nelson. Like, I was like, whoa. Everywhere you've done well is a perfect fit for RBC. And you kind of have a mixed bag here. So he's making it. And I also like Munoz. I'm just a Munoz guy. If you've been with me, you know that. And JJ Spawn, I think could be a good play. No issues. Just can't play everyone. Russell Knox, not a bad play. You can see just it's going to come down to what they do putting. But you can see, you know, JJ Spawn's been on a bit of a heater here. I mean, a T27 at first, a T23 at the Masters. EVR could be interesting, but you can see where these guys lack is with the putter. Seb Straka somehow is leading the field in putting. That's very interesting. Let's go take a look at that. Did not over the last 3 tournaments, so that's really curious. All right, so we don't have Masters data, but yeah, wow, look at that. Gained 4, 6, 2, 6. He could be interesting to play. I didn't really think much about him, to be honest, but he doesn't fit the mindset of what I was looking for. But I might going to sprinkle him in. Danny McCarthy, I already bet him. a little worried about this, off the tee and approach. We already know he's elite with the putter. The last guy I have is Sebastian Munoz. So with that said, let's go and wrap this up for you guys. The guys that are making the varsity team, let's just lead off. Right off the bat, Daniel Berger. No shocker there. I told you guys as soon as I saw it. Bet him. I think 30-1 I got on him, and just plugged him in one and done before I did anything. So we'll see where that all ends up. But right now, he's in my one and done. Russ Henley would be another one and done guy that I'd be thinking of, but I already used him at the Sony. Of course, great fit. Waiting for Russ. He still has not had a win. It's been a little while. I mean, he's been just nipping and been there. So perfect time for him to get it. Lowry, good course history already here. Been playing amazing golf. See no reason for all that to change. Of course, had a great Masters. Corey Connors, perfect fit. I mean, if he does what Corey Connors does, it's smaller greens. He, of course, also won the Valero, which, kind of a little bit tighter of a track. And Fitzpatrick, great fit too. So that's my varsity starting top 5. Now, who makes the JV squad? Leading off, Billy Ho. Again, perfect fit. Doesn't hit the ball long, but very accurate. Been good with the irons. Always good with the putter on Bermuda. Joaquin Niemann, probably a little more of my shocker pick for me, but one at Greenbrier, I think is a great fit. I didn't, we don't use that as a comp course because they don't play there anymore, but you could. I mean, but it's, a couple-year-old data. But yeah, perfect fit. Of course, you got Kevin Now, which you guys, if you've been with me, Kevin Now's burned me in so many different ways. He's not too far off what we've been seeing with Louis. He's the other one that just withdraws at any given moment. I feel like Now's a little bit like that too. So that's why I hesitate, but I got to play him. This is the course that he can definitely win at. Been playing good golf. Chris Kirk, same thing. Been waiting for him. I think we all thought he was going to win the RSM. Didn't happen, but maybe this is it. And then Alex Noren, also just an amazing form. Also has good comparable courses. And then you got Streelman, great course history here. I mean, you're going to kind of see the trend. Guys, give me fairways, decent irons, good short game. Adam Hadwin fits right in that bucket. Of course, you got Mr. Munoz. I didn't think, again, a little bit like a Neiman, wasn't the first one of the guys I thought of, but the more I thought about it, the more I see, I like playing Munoz, and I like Munoz. Kuchar, right with Nah, I feel like Kuchar's definitely on his down path, what it has been since he won those back-to-back in like 2019. What I saw, what he did at the Valero, if he can just, be close to that and maybe get half that with the putter. I mean, typically this is a perfect setup, and it's part of it, right? If you know golf and been watching a long time, and it's hard to get away from the thought process of not playing a Kuchar here. Even, Furyk, I mean, I'm going to look at him and think about that from a 7,000 below play. Perfect fit. Jim Furyk, perfect fit for this track. There's certain guys that instantly pop to your mind when you think strategic, tight, plotter, just hit fairways, greens, be a good putter. Last but not least, Troy Merritt, been nipping also, waiting to break through for a win. So I am all over Troy. So that is my top 15. And then real quick for one and done for you guys, you might already have yours done, but just give you some thoughts where I'm thinking. Here's the stroke gain data over the last 5 years. Who's gained the most strokes at this track? And of course, Simpson, Kuchar, funny enough, Poulter shows up there, makes total sense. Don't hit it far, very accurate, usually a very good putter. Cantlay, I think he's a bit off, so I definitely want to do that. TJ, I told you guys, I feel like he's kind of under the Koepka mode. What I mean by that is, if it's not a major or something, I have a hard time believing that DJ gives two craps about making the cut here. That's my own personal opinion. But I do like Fitzpatrick, Berger, Streelman. Grillo, he's been a disaster. Same with Aaron Wise. Now, those guys probably last year, if I went back and looked, I guarantee I probably had both those guys picked. Or, at least Grillo, I remember that. But I just can't do it. He's just been so bad. There's my Blackbeard. I've already got a bet on him, and probably he'll make my value plays. There's Lowry, CT Pan, Noren, Answer's not in the field. With that said, here's the guys to summarize who I'm looking at. If you haven't played Morikawa, you could go with one side that says it's not weaker. It's not a major or the strongest field. It's a good field. You could make it, that, hey, he should go out and blitzkrieg this. I'm all over Daniel Berger. If I had Henley, these are probably my top 2. And then these guys are all good picks. And if you need to differentiate, I would guess that like a Kuchar or a Nah If you need to come from behind, would be good plays and could definitely easily win this thing. The good news is, in my own personal thoughts, that this course, again, takes the distance away, and it does open up to allow a lot of other guys to win this thing. So the positive side is those long shot bets I'm all over. And I think I told you guys, I went a little nutty with the betting. This is one of my favorite top 5 tournaments. And also with the positives from what came from the Masters, I think I don't know, I have half the field covered, but I got probably quite a bit of it covered. And so we'll see if some kind of crazy happens where someone just out of completely nowhere that you're not looking at wins this thing, then going to lose some cash. All right. With that said, I hope you guys would do me the honor, as always. Click that like button, share with anybody else, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit me up on Twitter, and I want to thank you guys for spending some time with me. Tomorrow I will come out with my Before the Lock show and give you everything from ownership projections, weather, my top 5 value plays 7K and below. What else we typically do? I think that's it. Or anything I see on press releases, I'll watch those. Yeah, any more insights I can give you guys, I'll let you know. And then keep an eye out for withdrawals. I just have a feeling we're going to see a few. All right, guys, take care. Talk to you tomorrow.